Today we're looking at Monster Energy Supercross 3 on the Nintendo Switch. This review is after its day one patch. This is actually the second time I'm recording this now, and that's going to be really important. We'll talk about that first in the video. But on the channel though, we've reviewed the first two. I gave the first one a 5 out of 10 and I gave the second a 6 out of 10 on the Switch. Can this continue the trend of improvement, or is this one a step backwards, or just simply more of the same for the series? Well, I always look forward to these games every single year, and my requests, my hopes for this one, please Milestone, just give me a full racing field, not half the racers, some improved physics, and let's get those visuals up to where they should be on the Switch. I'm not asking for much, I don't think, I probably am. But yeah, hit that subscribe button and let's get this started. I'm coming in. So day one patch, you beautiful, beautiful thing, but you're also kind of a pain in the ass. This is actually the second time I've recorded this video now. I spent almost 20 hours in the pre-patch game recording footage, and then I edited for another 10 hours after that. That first review, not nice. No online play, graphics were awful. I was letting go on this one, but something didn't seem right, so I reached out to the publishers, and then guess what happened last night once my video uploaded? Day one patch. Online was here, graphical issues fixed. Deleted that video, and here we are again. This review, we're now factoring in this patch. Just to give you an idea of the difference though, pre-day one gameplay here, see the shadows popping from the tough blocks on the left. Look at the screen at the top of the stadium, the aspect ratio, it's all wrong. Now the fixed version, them shadows, much better. That screen, the aspect ratio, fixed. I even think the coloring's a little bit better here. Let's do this all again, and let's start with graphics. So graphics, this one was built from the ground up, and I was hoping we'd get a decent jump in quality for the Switch variation. They've always struggled. But I will say it's definitely not huge, but it's, you know, it's still messy. But I will say it's not awful. It's no like MXGP3, for example. With this entry in the series, they went with a more muted colour palette. I'm sure that was to capture a feeling of realism, and on the Xbox where I've played this too, this one looks amazing. On the Switch, it's okay, but it definitely doesn't help the low quality visuals, honestly, you know, kind of like dull colours on top of blurred visuals. It can kind of be a bit boring to look at, basically. As always though, race lines, ruts, there's very little visually demonstrating these things. Yeah, you see the occasional tyre track, but that's about it. It's pretty much on level with the second entry in the series, minus the super vibrant colours. We're basically riding here on pretty low detail textures. When it comes to popping though, this, as long as you have that day one patch, makes some serious improvements. No longer are shadows coming in right next to you. You'll still see the occasional detail here and there, but for the most part, this is a great improvement. And when popping does occur, it's always pretty far off in the distance that during gameplay, when you're actually in control, you're never gonna notice, honestly. I only picked up on it when I was looking back at footage. We do get the occasional glitch with the track though, I will say that. This is where the texture doesn't load up quick enough, and it's like a piece is missing for a split second just before you hit it. I'd also say though, this is very, very rare. This happened to me maybe 2 or 3 times, but I still wanted to mention it. On track, then you can expect the usual weather effects, you know, rain, wet track, dry. These effects, they're not bad. They're slightly better than last year. They don't feel like just like a filter over the top of your screen anymore. They feel like they're within the environments. When it comes to how they impact the track, because of the, you know, muddy visuals we do get here, it does very little. Mainly that light brown goes to a slightly darker brown. They're not bad. They really do impact gameplay, and we'll get to that later, but I wouldn't expect anything amazing here. Also, I've got to say, one of the smaller visual effects that 2 introduced, I really did appreciate it. It's actually slightly been pulled back, but not in a good way, and that's mud kicking up from the back of the bike. It's a bit more minimal now. I thought this was a nice touch in the last one, and I'm sad to see it go. It was also a really good mask for the back wheel clipping through the track, which is actually pretty obvious here again now. I'd say they need to probably put this back into the game with a patch, or definitely bring it back next year. With the riders, we get the weather effects returning, you know, the mud effects kicking up from the bike, and they look just great. They found a kind of a realistic balance for how this impacts your rider. Last year they were kind of like soaked head to toe, and now it's a little bit more gradual, and I really like it. One weird thing in this one though, it's not all the time, but the lighting engine can feel off. Now I will say day one patch again made some serious fixes, but it still doesn't always sit right with me. Sometimes I'd feel like someone forgot to turn on the lights in the stadium occasionally. I'd feel like there was like no true real source of light casting on me. It's not every track, but let's take Anaheim for example. Something's off, shadows are almost too dark. It didn't generally, impact my moment-to-moment enjoyment of the game, it's just something to note. On lighting, they also did this weird thing now, as a race begins, the edge of the screen gets darker around you. I think they were just trying to be kind of like stylish and show intensity for the race that's coming up, but it doesn't really work, it just kind of breaks the broadcast feel of the whole experience. Okay, let's talk about some things that I do really like over this one. The intros, not too much has changed here, but they keep getting closer and closer to that broadcast visual, and it's the sharpest, honestly, they've ever looked on the Switch. Yes, the riders' faces are still creepy, but that's expected at this point. They're kind of dead behind the eyes. That's on every console. The riders and the bikes, and just graphics generally, they are sharper. Yeah, I know I said they're kind of muddy and blurry, but this is better than past visuals, and that really helps the whole experience. They're not good graphics, again, reinforcing that, but it's a step in the right direction. The riders and the bikes, we get a few extra animations here, plant a landing wrong, or the way they maneuver around a corner. It's starting to get like this realistic looking flow of things. Also, when it comes to the bikes, they move with more weight, and it's not just the animation, but the camera that really reinforces this impression. That's because you're going to see the suspension working its ass off as it slams into the track. But this is the big one to really reinforce this then. They've introduced a camera that's got like almost a handheld feel, so it shakes along with you as the bike lands. It's just going to pop with the bike, and it's this simple touch that plays a big part in this one's level of realism, and it throws you into that rider experience because you're almost kind of seeing that impact. It's really good stuff, and I really did like this. With cameras then, we also see the return, of course, of multiple angles, from at the front of the bike, in the helmet, the standard third-person mode. I'm always happy to see plenty of options. They deliver that again here. I don't think they really need to do any work on this, honestly, and I think it's good that they've just brought the same options along and they've focused on everything else. So last up, for in-race, they've also increased crowd size. It was a little desperate in number 2, as we often found ourselves in empty stadiums. Here I feel like they've managed to capture the size and intensity of these stadium events. Yes, animations are low, but all I ever really wanted was head count. I wanted to be the main event, and here I'm finally starting to feel like that. Now, outside of the races, they've also done a complete overhaul of the menu system, and it quickly brings this game into 2020 amongst other sports titles. Gone are the scrolling through text menus. Here we're getting this tile-based system that not only works great, but looks stylish too. Last up, I'm putting this in graphics because it has zero impact on gameplay, but in the character creation, we now get female riders. It's a nice option. I think this is actually great, and it was definitely needed. With the upcoming female racers in the minor series, this to me is for all the future fans of the sport and that growing audience. So yeah, graphics. We don't get any major jumps in quality, but the small touches are still appreciated, from general sharpness through to female riders and cameras that now have a purpose of showing how the bike crashes and shakes. Yeah, I'm not sure on the muted colour palette, I'll say that, it's okay. The lighting also, it can be a little bit off here, it can make it all look a little strange at times. But yeah, I gotta say, good work, Milestone. This is a decent step up from the last entry. We're going in the right direction, and considering after the day 1 patch here, this is a huge jump. Okay, the good stuff, what we're all here for, gameplay. The footage on show is from a few sessions due to that shift with the patch that I've spoke about multiple times now. So if you haven't noticed already, I'm no pro at this game, don't expect it. Feel free to mock my skills in the comments all you want. I'm here to talk about how it compares to the previous 2 entries, its fun factor, and of course options. And I'm going to say this right off the bat, if you're a fan of the series, you're in for a treat. Let's though kick this off with my big request first, the Switch joining other consoles and having a full racing line. You've seen the footage already, you know the answer, nope. I'm still waiting 3 years later. I guess we can hope on the 4th entry, but I'm not holding my breath. They really do need to work this out. It's never going to capture the same experience and intensity that other consoles can without it. I know the Switch is capable of this. This entry is actually coming in under 5 gig in size. It's not huge or anything, you know? So I'm pretty confident they can find a way to finally give us this option. With this one though, I will say they've added a lot of nice things, so I'll give them that. I'll give them credit there. First off, career mode now has the 2019 official teams. What this means is with career, you'll start off in a boot camp race. Then once this is completed, you'll receive different offers from sponsors and teams. No more going solo here. You're going to get the chance to race with and join some of your favorite teams and racers. And to me, that's very, very cool. This also unlocks some pretty nice customization options as well for your racer, and they can be used in career, single player or online. I approve of this. It does nothing, but it's a nice little reward, and it's better than Milestone asking us to pay them, money for this shit. So the big question, how does the racing feel? And in summary, I've got to say different. In a good way, I think so, but it's dependent on what you are personally looking for from this whole game. First off, the AI here will kick your ass. No more straight to the front of the pack in easy mode. This game, it's gonna make you work, and everything in difficulty here just feels ramped and more demanding. To add to this then, the bikes, they're generally less forgiving. I could fly through sections in 2 with little to no effort, honestly. Here, these bikes are gonna make you work just that little bit harder. My first few runs, and honestly still, I'm slowly bumping my way through these sections. If I go out flying even once, I'm screwed and I'm gonna be falling straight to the back of the pack. And as with all of these monster games, you can of course change difficulty. That's everything from the setup of the bikes, the general physics, the ability of your AI counterparts. Even then though, there is still a slightly higher entry point for difficulty. It's making this one, for the first time in the series, feel a little closer to sim than arcade, so take that into account when you're trying to work out which one of these games to pick up. Now, if one thing can break the feeling of realism, it's ragdoll physics, and they are back here in all of their glory. Riders, when they crash, go flying all over the place. The occasional glitch will send them into the sky for all we know, and things just get weird quickly. Then if you land on someone as well post-jump, you can find yourself kind of just floating in the air above them as it waits for a chance to land on the ground. It's not gonna cause a collision. It's not awful or anything. I expected it, honestly, from the series at this point. But for those hoping for real crashes and all of that kind of good stuff, it's not here. Don't come here looking for it. Now, when it comes to weather effects, you can definitely feel the difference on the bike. Muddy is really gonna slow things down. Rain, you're gonna feel that slip. This is the first time I could truly feel the difference where weather impacted my approach entirely, and I've got to say it feels really good. It gives me more reason to turn on these weather effects, especially when we're starting to build in challenge as you watch your bike slip out under you in the rain. It's just such a cool feeling. Unfortunately though, for the in-air antics, the same can't quite be said. We still get that almost like floaty feeling, the bikes never come down quick enough in these games. It's a bit better for sure, but still far from where it needs to be. I will say though, at least when you screw up a landing here, it has a real impact now as it completely slows you down. That never happened before, and I wouldn't really, worry too much about my racing line. What they need to do now though is just fine tune that speed. As I say, they've got the impact, they've got a pretty good launch section. It's just what happens in between those two parts. Now, for those of you looking for whips as well, while we're talking about in-air, it's the exact same mechanics, of very little in the way of freedom. You either push the joysticks together or pull them apart as you hit a jump. It works, it looks cool of course. It's gonna help you win races as you jump lower, but it's not very rewarding because you're not really doing much, let's face it. Generally for in-air, for those looking for more freedom in the movement, I will say in-air you do get it, but just not in these whips. Now, if you're wondering about the roster and tracks we get here, it's the same as always with these games, 1 year behind. We're getting the 2019 roster and tracks, so basically 100 riders from the 450 and 250 categories, alongside a ton of bikes and 15 official tracks and stadiums. Then throw in all the customizations, sponsors, and there's a lot of content. Like last year's entry though, we see the return of the custom track editor. This was one of my favourite elements of the second entry, and that's not changed. This one, it just feels very similar, while introducing some new sections for you to use, and that's perfect. I said it last year, I'm going to say it again. I love this feature because it basically makes the game endless when you can jump online and find completely custom tracks to check out. Yes, there is a lot of trash out there, of course, but there's also some really cool ideas flying about within this community, and I can't wait to see what they do when they get their hands on this third entry. So outside of single player then, there's still a ton of content. First up, time attack. It's just that, beat your best time, either race against just the time itself or turn on a ghost racer of your previous lap. That was my personal way to play. I just like the visual of the whole experience. We also of course see the return of Compound, a playground for you to just basically go crazy in. Not the biggest fan personally, but it's a huge area for you to explore. So if it's your thing, you're probably going to enjoy this one too. Next up, championship, pre-selected tracks in a row to win a cup, obviously. Challenge mode, this one's really cool. Select a challenge and complete it within the compound to win awards. Think whip in specific areas or follow the race line perfectly. It mixes up the gameplay, it's a great way to practice, and it even rewards you with cosmetics, another great addition. Last up, we get multiplayer. This now comes in a few different forms. Local play, so think multiple switches with multiple copies of the game. Probably kind of rare, to be honest, for most. Co-op compound, so you can jump online with a friend and just kind of, mess around. And then, of course, the mighty online racing. You will find reviews out there saying there's no online. Let's say this again. You need the day one patch to get access to this, to add it to your menu system. It also fixes the graphics. It makes it a different game entirely, honestly. With online here, we actually get two options. Join a preset race or use something called Race Director to basically customize and host the track. You're changing everything here from the race length to collision types, the physics and the weather. Online is here, it's real, I'm happy. This is the feature that keeps me coming back, and it's gonna keep me coming back to this one, just like last year. For everyone out there who's more towards pro gameplay, I've said it before, let's just reinforce this though. Expect to customize everything. You can change the bike, you can change the physics, you can change the other riders. This can be as realistic and involved as you want it to be. It does a good balancing act of just working with new and veteran players alike. And that's gameplay, other than a tutorial mode that works, but I'm not going to go into detail on that, it doesn't clues in the name. Here they're bringing back series favourites and building upon them. Career mode now has teams. Physics are starting to really develop. The bikes are starting to handle like they should. This is great work. Gameplay wise, I'm impressed. Perfect? No, but it's going in the right direction. That's what I care about. I'm excited to see where we go next. We're finally starting to put together something really, really good here. Last up today, we get audio. It's pretty good. The crowds sound big. The music's suitably sports titles, so think a combination of rap and rock. And then the small details like the engine sounds, they do a decent job of showing the power of the bikes. I will say with the engines, I would have liked them to have sounded a little bit different. They all basically sound the same. I think they could have done a different thing for each model, but honestly, that's a minor complaint. The only other audio thing I think that's worth touching on is probably the commentary, and it's still terrible. It's also so infrequent though, you only get it before and after races. It's never gonna really bother you. So overall, audio, it's not bad, but let's not spend any more time on it. So the final verdict, what a difference a day one patch can make. This is completely different to pre-patch world. My first video, my first score, the one that got deleted, was a 4, probably maybe a 5 out of 10. This second take, I want to give it some serious praise. Graphics, they've made some decent steps forward. Yeah, we got the occasional lighting issue and there's some minor issues with the blurriness of this one, but generally speaking, the graphics are starting to look stronger. The races and the bikes, they're looking sharper. There's a lot to like here. For gameplay then, the physics are seeing a huge improvement. The weight of the bike you can start to feel now. The AI is smarter and more challenging. And then career mode comes with real reward. Content-wise, in just gameplay for me, this is easily better than the second entry. If you want an arcade experience though, I would probably suggest sticking with 2. This one is for sure more challenging. They're definitely leaning on a sim-like world at this point. For everyone else though, for everyone who's willing to kind of stick through it for that challenging opening to get the reward, this is the best Supercross experience yet on the Switch. And today, I'm giving this one a good 7 out of 10. For the 4th entry in the series, to reach that 8 or 9 out of 10, I just need a full racing field now. I can't continue to forgive half the racers, and that's why today I didn't go above 7. I think it's fair. Other consoles get double the battle, and that's so much fun. Milestone are clearly learning though. This one actually comes in $10 cheaper than on any other platform, so maybe they're also starting to recognize there's some limitations here. Overall though, great work. Supercross fans, be happy. Yes, it's slightly more difficult, but if you stick with it, give it a couple of hours, you will get so much more reward, so much more enjoyment out of this one than the second or first one in the series. Tomorrow we'll be dropping a video comparing the graphics here to the Xbox version. We'll also be comparing Supercross 1, 2 and 3. So with that, if you have any questions about this one, there was a ton to cover. Leave us a comment below with your questions. We'll get them answered as quickly as possible. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It really does help us out. We appreciate it as well. And with that, we'll see you all on the next Gaming X.